Hello and welcome to another Project Diablo 2 video. I am Kordesh and today we're going to be going over my Paladin for Season 13 Betrayal. It's really good in group content as well as ear maps. So let's go ahead and get on into it. Alright, so the first thing that I want to cover is kind of why I wanted to make this character. So I think context matters a lot in doing builds and what you want to play. So I generally play in a group or a party, and right now the two people I play with is a Whirlwind Barbarian and a Summons on, slash Physical Strafe. So I really wanted to try and maximize our group output as well as allowing my ability to solo. So when trying to figure out and design this character, I decided to go for a Paladin just because I wanted to bring an aura. Some kind of physical aura. I was really tired of playing Dark Pact. I don't want to amp damage. I don't want to destroy my wrist. I'd rather just, play casually, and having like one or two buttons with an aura active sounds great. So the first thing I want to mention is they currently have a Templar's Might and a Faith. And that allows them to get the level 8 Might Aura and the level 15 Fanaticism. So I kind of included this here. So it basically gives 90% off weapon enhanced damage to the party from the Might, and it gives 130% party damage from the Fanaticism. So as a Paladin, as someone who's trying to design a build, I have a couple options. So I can go, basically a level 50 Fanaticism. Level 50 is just kind of like a ballpark benchmark where I figured I could end up. And so I have these listed below. So the Fanaticism was 392% ED with some other stuff, obviously. Concentration is 397%. And then Might is the most, 510%. However, so you might look at this and be like, oh, Might obviously has 510%. That's the best, and that's the winner. No, that's not how this works. So there's something called an opportunity cost. So if I use a Might that basically overrides this level 8 Might from the mercenary, so like this might not be the best option. So after some careful consideration, I looked at all the different setups. So if I went with Fanaticism, we basically get 482% party ED. If I went with Might, I get to about 640%. So the best option is actually Concentration with a Might Mercenary. And the Might Mercenary right now for me is about level 23 Might. And so that gives 767% off weapon ED for my entire team. To put this into perspective, like we were running eared Kovashads, and very, very quickly, both the Summons on and the Whirlwind Barbarian were doing upwards of 400,000 to 500,000 DPS. I was still doing like 150 to 2. This is very powerful. So now that I know that I'm going to have this level 50 concentration aura, I need to start figuring out like what do I do next. And let's go ahead and start just looking at the character. Take a sip of coffee first. All right, so the character. When you think about concentration aura, the first thing that you think about is Blessed Hammer. So with Blessed Hammer, it does magic damage, but it also scales with concentration. So there's some really nice synergy there. Now the problem is I don't want to use an Enigma. I don't want to telestomp in. Having to get faster cast rate as well as defenses and all that stuff is a real pain in the ass. You have to figure out like life on kill, mana after each kill. I don't want to do any of that. So as soon as I was doing that, my friend was like, hey, what about the proc weapon for Blessed Hammer? So I immediately went and started playing around with an Akarat's Devotion. And this specifically has a 28% chance to cast a level 35 Blessed Hammer on striking. And this has been working wonderfully. So it diversifies our damage profile. So we have mostly physical, but if there's ever a phys immune, I'm doing a lot of hammer damage. And it does a lot. If we look at Blessed Hammer, so we're just going to assume that it is level 35 from the item. Now, if we look at Blessed Aim and Vigor, they give synergy. So 12% magic damage per level. So if we go over to Vigor and Blessed Aim, which are in defensive auras, Vigor is in defensive auras, so that is maxed, and then Blessed Aim is also there, also maxed. So with all those things, combined together, let's go ahead and look at what kind of damage this can be doing with a level 50 concentration aura. So the Blessed Hammer at level 35 does 400 max damage. We probably don't care about the mana cost. And then the synergy bonus is 480%. And we get that because we just multiply the 12% times 40 because there's two synergies, 20 points each. All right, so if we look at the base damage plus the synergies, so the way that this works is if you're doing like 100% extra damage, so like 100%, that would basically be 2x damage. So 480% would be 5.8. So we just multiply 400 times 5.8. So 400 equal 400 times 5.8, and we get 2320. Now that we have this number, we can multiply it by our level 50 concentration aura. So go over here and we do equals 2320 times 4.97. Because again, this 397 is a percentage. And so if something is 100% increase, that means you're multiplying it by 2. So 397 means it's going to be 4.97. So that's how we get this big fat number. And this is a lot of magic damage on a proc. So that's step one for the build. Now that we have this proc, we need a way to proc it. So attacking as fast as possible is good. If you look at my IS breakpoints, we're at 90 IS or like 100 IS. With the fanaticism, I'm at the max breakpoint for Zeal. So spoiler alert, I'm using Zeal. But there's also other ways. So we have Innocence here, which is again a very expensive item. But if you're looking for a proc build, this is just an incredible way to do it. So it's really, really nice. And there's a lot of synergies here. So now that we've kind of talked about this, this proc on the hammer, and we have the Innocence, I'm also going to go ahead and showcase the Merc weapon. So we're using a Sanctuary Aura, and all this really does is it basically increases our magic damage by a little bit. It also has a Fist on Heavens on proc. If you see I made it in a normal Colossus Blade, that's mainly because I've been having so much with proc builds that eventually I'm going to take this and put it on my character and run around. I think I have a bunch of Magic Large Charms somewhere. Magic Large Charms, where are they? Yeah, so I'm going to basically just use all these and try a proc build with this weapon, so that's why it's not Eth or anything like that. So that's kind of like the Blessed Hammer portion of the build. Now there's a lot of other stuff. So again, we have this concentration, and solo, I think it's level 48. Yeah, it's level 48. But when I party up, my Barbarian friend has a level 20 battle command, so it's plus 3 to skills, which gets us to level 50. So we have the concentration, we have the Zeal, and the Zeal hits pretty hard. If we go out of town, you can see this number is quite large, 6 to 7,500. It's enough to really just kind of, you know, do really good damage, respectable damage. And we have good Life Leech and Mana Leech. So this keeps us pretty healthy. On top of that, we have really good attack rating with the Zeal because we have Ignore Target Defense on our Akarat's Devotion. This is important because it allows us to kind of use Blade Shield to proc hammers faster, as well as like basically if it's not an elite or magical monster or any of that stuff. It's really, really nice. So I really like this corruption. You can kind of do a bunch of different ones, but enhanced damage, ignore target defense, that's my preferred situation. And yeah, so we just hit really hard with Zeal, and that's kind of like the second portion of the damage for this build. Now the third portion of the damage is actually Crushing Blow. So as you can see, we have 92% Crushing Blow and 119% efficiency. So we have Steel Runs. They're not perfect, but we have some Poison Rise on it. And then over here we have Gore Riders to give us that Crushing Blow. And then I believe there's Crushing Blow on the Innocence, the 20% there. And then I think there might be somewhere else. I don't remember. Yeah, and 20% on the Sky Warden. So with this Crushing Blow package, we have percentage damage from Crushing Blow. And we pretty much always hit based off of our Ignore Target Defense, unless it's like a boss. Our chance to hit is not that great. But we also get a maxed out Blessed Aim. So we have minus 20 to target defense built in. So that's kind of cool. So again, we have hammers for AoE magic damage, and they hit for like 11,000 magic damage. We have Zeal, which hits for 6 to 7,500, and then we have tons of Crushing Blow. So pretty much we have a really good triple damage package that works well in group play, because when things scale up their health, you know, we have the percentage damage, we have the magic damage, we have the physical. It's just a very good complementary setup. So as far as the other stuff, let's go ahead and talk more about the skills. So we have some points in Holy Shield. I maxed out Zeal. I put a couple points in Sacrifice. Not too many, but a couple. And then Joust, you need to make sure that you hit this 1.5 cooldown breakpoint. If you are soloing, I would highly recommend going for an Alma Negra, because Telestomping is kind of like the best way to do it. And this gives a Joust cooldown by 0.5 seconds. Very, very big. If not, especially if you're doing what I'm doing, a Sky Warden, there's a +1 that I slay myself. This gives +5 to concentration auras, as well as like, you know, plus to paladin skills, things like that. It's really, really good. It also has Cyclone Armor on block. So one thing this build struggles with is elemental damage. Giving you a free Cyclone Armor is really, really nice. So yeah, and all you really do is you kind of just joust around, charge around, and you're kind of unkillable. And you can basically just joust, proc hammers, and then Zeal anything. So it makes you very, very tanky, very supportive, and pretty mobile between charge and joust. It's not like tele-stomping around at light speed or anything like that, but it's not particularly slow either. So that's kind of the generic playstyle. Again, covering the rest of the skills. So offensive auras, we maxed out concentration, we maxed out both same as the synergy, nothing else. Defensive auras, we maxed out vigor. And again, now at this point, I'll probably just keep pumping sacrifice, or you can pump up holy shield. At one point, I pumped up holy shield enough that I had 60,000 defense, and that's with like taunt and defiance aura and all this stuff, but that's completely unnecessary. All right, so back to the gear. We have the Akarat's Devotion for the hammer procs. We have Andes for the plus skills and the IAS, as well as lifesteal. Like, all of these things are just really, really useful. This one has CBF on it, cannot be frozen. I have one that has +1 to all skills, but I don't have any other CBF on this character, so it needs to stay here. Innocence, again, mandatory if you're doing a proc build. If you want to play this build without an Innocence, it is possible, and I would highly recommend just going for a stone. So you can see the stone, Shadow Plate. If I put this on, I still have, you know, just 26,000 armor. It's kind of crazy. So it's really tanky, but you're gonna proc less. Just you will. So Innocence is definitely better, but you can play this build without it. Again, Sky Warden, really good with the Cyclone Armor and proc, the offensive auras, the Paladin skill levels. We have the Crushing Blow Steel Rends. Now, as far as rings go, I really like the Bull Cathos rings because they have lifesteal, which keeps you alive. It gives you life, which you want just more life. And then I did resist slams because my resistances were a little bit on the sketchy side. I like getting my resist about 100 on everything. So we're close. I got to fix some of these charms. They're not the best. I also picked up a Sigurd Staunch. Eventually, I would like a max res Sigurd Staunch, but those are kind of expensive. And then Gore Riders. As far as charms, they're just offensive auras. They're not great right now. I could probably do better. We have an Annie, we have a Torch, we have some resistance charms, and that's pretty much it. As far as the mercenary, he is a Might mercenary. And so he is using Asylum, and this weapon has done very well for me. I max rolled the Sanctuary Aura, which is pretty cool. Again, I really want to try out the Fist of the Heavens proc build on my Paladin, so whenever my friends stop playing and I don't have that Fizz set up, we're going to be doing that. That's why this is not in a polearm or like an Eth Colossus blade or something like that. So as far as tankiness, the stone allows him to just not die at all. Eventually, maybe I'll give him an Innocence because then that can proc the Life Leech. I like the Lava Gouts because the Enchant Fire on striking gives me like attack rating and a little bit of extra fire damage. So that's just like a nice quality of life. But really, probably any IES gloves will do here. The Vamp Gaze for more lifesteal and the PDR is really, really big. I probably need to get a better PDR roll Vamp Gaze. Similarly, I'm going to do the same about String of Ears. You know, get a max PDR one, get some lifesteal. Those are great. And then the Marrow Walks are pretty much there for the CBF. So that's the Mercenary. Not that much to it. Now that we have all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and kind of look at a map here. So we have this juiced up cow map. Again, cow maps are not the best showcase, but cow maps have a ton of life, especially this one is Heroic, Treacherous, Corrupted, 174 density. I want to show how tanking this build is, because I have a 5% chance to block, a 5% chance to be hit, and a 75% chance to block. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of math here. So 0.05 chance to get hit, and then I have a 0.25% chance to get hit instead of blocking. So I have a 75% block chance, which means the inverse of that is 25%. So if you look at that number, 0.0125, so if I do 1 divided by 0.0125, it's 80. That means if I go run around, and these horror mages have a 5% chance to hit me, and I have a 75% chance to block, I could get attacked 80 times. Like 1 out of every 80 will hit me. That is the expected value of being hit for me. That is insane. So I don't have like tons of PDR or things like that. I don't even know if I have any PDR. Yeah, I have no PDR, but my armor is high enough and my chance to block is high enough that I generally will survive a hit, and then I have enough Life Leech, 18%, with the Zeal attack to just leech right back up. So I've died a couple times. I've died like 11 times, but it's not very often. And really, the only dangerous thing is if you get amped into like a Fanaticism or Concentration or Might Aura pack, just don't do that. Or the Stygian dolls that explode, like I think 5 blew up on me and killed me at one point. Or the Kyrgyzstan marketplace, the fire trap things, getting bursted by elemental damage is also another way that you could die. So I'm gonna go ahead and showcase this map. So basically, the way that I run this is I kind of joust to the next pack, and as you can see, I'm almost at 400,000 DPS. Obviously, this cow map is just DPS inflation, completely off the rails. But yeah, the idea is to just keep on jousting forward and try and get more and more cows to follow. This concentration might be a little bit dangerous. And sometimes joust is a little bit finicky. And hopefully my Merc doesn't die, because he's really done a very good job of not dying. And that's kind of just how it goes. You just keep on running around. And with this build, you can ignore stragglers if you want to move faster. So I'm just going to pick up a couple things. You can absolutely ignore stragglers if you want to move faster. But really, you could get in the middle of craziness and just absolutely hammer down, do a bunch of AoE, cleave. And again, these mods are pretty nuts. So I'll try and just jump in the middle of like all of this. And I just keep on relocating with Joust to try and maximize the damage that my hammers will do. Now, again, is this the fastest build ever? No, but this is probably one of the best ear farming builds that I've came up with. I'm sure there's probably better ones, but I like it a lot. It's really good in group play. Again, here's my stuff. My FHR is kind of bad. My IES is kind of bad. But it's good enough in group play. I probably would put up some more FHR Grand Charms as far as plus the offensive auras, because as you can see, I only have like 12 FHR, which is really bad. That being said, I don't get hit very often. Probably with a 17%, it's probably like 1 out of every 35 or so, if I had to guess. That's kind of it. So I'm going to run over. I'm going to probably run over and just kind of showcase what the boss looks like real quick. All right, here's the Cow Queen. Let's crush her. So again, this is like a pretty crazy juiced up ear map. Yeah. She doesn't die like instantly, but it's pretty good DPS. Again, just gonna keep on drinking my coffee. And she's dead. Easy. All right. All right, one last thing that I want to mention is, as far as running map solo, Sewers is good. Ashen Plains is fine. Royal Crypts is okay. You have to really try and do physical and magic, not having immunes, because if you have both physical and magic, it just slows you down too much. The only things that I would recommend is like Sewers is the GOAT. I think Sewers is probably the best map for us. Halls of Torture is pretty good. The density just feels like a little bit lacking compared to some of the other ones. The Ashen Plains is also pretty good, as long as you're like pretty quick and you don't worry about stragglers. Like you just teleport to any big packs, charge any big packs, and then start zealing. And then Torchon Jungle, Ancestral Trial, and Phlegathon are really the only maps. Anything that has both physical and magic, not immune, those are it. So it's really just these and Blood Moons. Most other stuff doesn't work. So, all right. So one last thing that I want to touch on. So it took me about 18 minutes to clear that map. I was recording, but I think my mic messed up. So if you look at these ears, they say monsters have 200% increased health. That means that they have 3 times the health, and then they have a 75% increase in item drop chance. So let's go ahead and do some math. So if you normally clear a map in, let's say, 10 minutes, and you now have, 300% more health, and maybe that increases your clear speed to like 20 minutes. So let's say you have a 20-minute map. Should you be doing that? No. So for me, I think that if you multiply your base time by 1.75, so 10 times 1.75, and that's just the items, then that kind of gives you the baseline of how fast it should be going. So this, in my opinion, is the break even. So if you normally do a 10-minute map, an eared map should take you 17 minutes and 30 seconds, or else it's kind of not worth your time. I know from a fact that a cow map, not eared, will still take me 15 to 20 minutes, like somewhere in that range anyway. So whether it's eared or not eared changes very little difference on my clear speed. Like I do the percentage damage, I do the lots of flat damage. Most of my clear time comes from the fact that I have to like walk around and get the monsters to come up to me and fight them and stuff. So it has very little difference on my map clear speed, and so that's why I generally will run ear maps nonstop on this build. So yeah, that's what I would do, is whatever your clear speed is. So if it's 15 minutes, 1.75, 26 minutes. If it's underneath that, you can do the ear map. If it's frustrating, just don't run them. It's not a big deal. That's for me what the break even is.